You wake up in the middle of the night. The room is empty, yet the feeling that someone is watching you won't go away. The air has turned still and heavy. An inexplicable fear begins to grow inside you. And then you notice it, a figure in the corner. Short, thin, with a head that is disproportionately large. The eyes, huge, black, almond-shaped. It just stands there, watching. You can't move. A moment later, it vanishes, as if it was never there. You wonder, was it a dream? A hallucination? But then you discover millions of people around the world have seen the same thing. And they all have one thing in common, an encounter with the so-called Greys. Who are they? Why do they appear? What do they want from us? This story is not just a collection of theories. It is a deep dive into the most mystical and unsettling part of modern folklore, science, and possibly a hidden truth that has been carefully concealed. Who are the Greys? The so-called Greys are among the most recognizable and widely discussed types of extraterrestrial beings in UFO culture. Their appearance is familiar to almost everyone, standing about 1.2 to 1.5 meters tall, with slender bodies, greyish-blue skin, disproportionately large heads, and elongated, jet-black, almond-shaped eyes. No ears, no nose, just small openings, and a complete, inhuman silence. The first widespread reports of the Greys began to emerge in the mid-20th century, but the most famous and defining event occurred in 1947, the Roswell incident. According to the official version, it was merely a weather balloon crash. According to the unofficial one, a UFO went down, carrying beings who would later become known as the Greys. Since then, thousands of witnesses have come forward claiming encounters with these entities. What's truly unsettling, however, is that nearly all of them describe the same details, down to the smallest feature, even though many have never had any contact with each other. What do they want? And here is where things become truly strange. Most encounters with the Greys are described as abductions. People report being suddenly pulled out of their normal reality, finding themselves in light, sterile rooms where mysterious procedures are performed on them. There is no pain, but also no will. Examinations, tissue sampling, manipulation of consciousness. Then they are returned usually to the exact spot from which they disappeared. The question arises, why? There are several hypotheses. The most common are scientific curiosity. Perhaps the Greys are biologists observing humanity as part of an experiment. To them, we are like lab animals, and everything they do is merely data collection. Genetic program. Many abductees have claimed they were implanted with something related to their reproductive systems. Some women reported being forced to carry something only for the fetus to later be taken away. One theory suggests the Greys have gone extinct as a biological species and are now trying to engineer hybrids, part human, part Grey. Mind control. Reports often describe the presence of telepathy. The Greys rarely speak, but people hear their thoughts, feel their influence, and it seems they are capable of bending human will. Could it be that they seek to turn us into unconscious agents of their own agenda? Encounters with the Greys don't just frighten, they induce a deep, paralyzing dread, even in the most hardened skeptics, because everything feels far too real. One of the most well-known cases is that of Betty and Barney Hill, which took place in the early 1960s in the United States. The couple was driving home late at night when they noticed a bright light in the sky. It began to follow their car. Then, a complete blackout. They came 2 hours later, still in their vehicle, with no memory of what had happened. Later, under hypnosis, both of them recounted the exact same story. Their car had been stopped. They were taken aboard a craft. They saw beings with large heads and oversized eyes. Medical procedures were performed, samples of skin, blood, all accompanied by a kind of telepathic calming. They were not harmed physically, but the feeling of total helplessness would never leave them. And theirs is just one of thousands of such stories. The strangest part, many abductees are left with unexplained scars or even implants that no doctor can account for. There are several theories about the origins of the greys. Here are the three most widely discussed. Theory 1. The Zeta Reticuli system. According to numerous ufological sources, the greys came from this star system, located approximately 39 light-years from Earth. This civilization is said to have lost its home planet long ago, surviving through advanced technology, but at the cost of becoming sterile. Hence, their fascination with human genetics. Theory 2. A future version of humanity. One hypothesis claims the greys are actually us humans from a distant future. In a desperate bid for survival, humanity may have evolved or devolved into beings with large heads and frail bodies. Having lost emotional depth and reproductive capability, they now travel back in time to repair themselves using the DNA of their ancestors, thus. Theory 3. Biomechanical drones or avatars. Some ufologists believe the greys are not a true species at all, but rather artificial drones, biomechanical entities carrying out the orders of a higher, unknown intelligence. Perhaps they are merely the hands and eyes of those who watch us from afar. One thing is clear, encounters with the greys are never described as positive experiences. They are always intrusions. They are about control, manipulation, and the suppression of will. People don't just feel like subjects, they feel like prey. And it's not their appearance that frightens, it's what they can do to the human mind. Some theorists claim that all of humanity is already under an invisible influence, that the greys are already here, they've simply chosen not to reveal themselves. Perhaps they're integrating slowly, watching, analyzing, staring at us through those enormous black eyes with the cold detachment of a biologist observing bacteria. Those who delve deeply into the subject of the greys often reach a chilling conclusion. The governments of the world, especially the superpowers, know far more about them than they publicly admit. And some of them may have been cooperating with the greys for a long time. One of the most talked about examples is a project allegedly codenamed Majestic 12. According to ufologists, this was an ultra-classified group established in the late 1940s in the United States by direct order of the president following the Roswell incident. Its purpose: to manage contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. According to leaked documents, a supposed agreement was made between the greys and the US government. In exchange for advanced technology, the aliens would be granted access to a limited number of human subjects for biological experimentation. However, the terms were reportedly violated almost immediately. The greys began abducting far more individuals than allowed, and soon, they were beyond human control. One of the darkest legends is tied to a secret underground facility in Dulce, New Mexico. Allegedly, it is a multi-level complex where greys and humans work side by side. According to descriptions, the lower levels are reserved exclusively for the extraterrestrials, where they conduct genetic experiments, merging human and alien DNA. A man named Phil Schneider, an engineer who claimed to have been involved in the construction of these underground structures, later came forward with public statements. He asserted that he had seen the greys with his own eyes, had survived a violent firefight between humans and aliens deep underground, and even displayed burn scars from what he said was a plasma weapon. Just a few months later, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Officially, suicide. But within the ufology community, many believe he was silenced because he knew too much. The big question: if they're already here, why hide? Theorists claim that the greys are masters of concealment. They may not infiltrate human society physically, but mentally, through mind control, telepathic links, and even dreams. According to this version, they're not just observing, they're studying our emotions, our fears, our desires, gathering data we ourselves are not even aware of. Perhaps humanity is an experiment. Perhaps we are pets, being prepared for something greater. Or, on the contrary, maybe humanity has already lost control of its own reality, and everything we think we know has long since been rewritten by something watching us from a higher dimension. Global statistics on missing persons are terrifying. Hundreds of thousands vanish every year, and in most cases, they are never found. Certainly, many disappearances can be explained: crime, natural disasters, people running away. But a significant percentage remain unsolved. These vanishings happen suddenly, without a trace, with no surveillance footage and no witnesses. Some ufologists claim that the Greys are behind a portion of these cases. The most bizarre incidents occur in so-called silent zones, mysterious geographic locations where electronic devices fail, compasses spin erratically, and people vanish without a sound. We've followed the trail from terrifying nighttime visitations to global conspiracy theories. But still, the central question remains: why us? Why are the Greys here? At first glance, it seems to boil down to one of three possibilities. They are scientists, studying humanity the way we study ants. They are survivors, searching for a way to save their dying species through our DNA. They are invaders, not with guns or spaceships, but with subtle infiltration of minds and systems, slowly rewriting the essence of what it means to be human. But there's a fourth hypothesis, far more unsettling. We are their creation. Perhaps the Greys are not visitors, but originators. Perhaps humanity is their experiment, their biological project, their past or their future. If that's true, then the abductions, the manipulation, even their integration into culture isn't aggression. It's control. Control over a process that began thousands of years ago. So now you've seen the patterns, the stories, the sightings, the silence. Maybe it's all just fear and fantasy. Or maybe it's something else. What if they're not coming? What if they're already here? And always were? You don't have to believe, but you should start paying attention, because the truth doesn't hide, it watches. Could there exist a civilization that is much more advanced than ours, yet does not seek power or domination? Imagine that, since ancient times, we have been accompanied by mysterious beings from the north, the Northerners, or, as they are called in other sources, Nordic extraterrestrials. It is said that they were here even before us and may have even influenced the development of humanity. Who are they? Benevolent brothers, ready to lend a hand? Or are they yet another set of manipulators hiding behind a mask of friendliness? We will dive into the mysterious world of the Northerners to try to unravel this puzzle. The myths and legends of Northern peoples are full of strange beings that came from the north. For example, in Scandinavian mythology, they are gods, heroes, and monsters that dwell on the borders of worlds. However, in recent decades, these ancient myths have begun to take on new forms, as many are convinced that these beings are not mere fabrications, but actual visitors from other planets or even parallel worlds. The question is, who are they? The story of the Northerners as Nordic extraterrestrials begins with dozens of accounts and testimonies from people who claim to have seen them with their own eyes. These witnesses describe enormous, tall people with extraordinarily beautiful faces and glowing eyes. Sometimes they appeared as ordinary humans, and at other times as beings vaguely resembling angels. What draws our attention to them? Why, among the many other UFO stories, do these extraterrestrials seem so closely tied to the myths and culture of Northern peoples? In recent decades, hundreds of reports have emerged worldwide about encounters with extraterrestrials who, according to witnesses, closely resemble ancient northern deities. People recount meeting such beings in the most unexpected places, in forests, on mountain peaks, or even in large cities, where they allegedly left traces of their presence. The most well-known accounts of encounters with the Northerners appeared in the early 20th century, when various ufologists and researchers began gathering such testimonies. One of the most striking examples occurred in 1948, when several residents of a northern town claimed to have seen mysterious beings who seemed to be unarmed and without any equipment. Yet their presence evoked an indescribable sense of peace and confidence. One of the most memorable stories belongs to a group of mountaineers who, in the 1980s, encountered unknown beings possessing an invisible aura. These northerners seemingly appeared out of nowhere, but their intentions were peaceful. They might have even assisted the mountaineers who were stranded in poor weather conditions. Witnesses claimed that their eyes shone with an extraordinary light, and their behavior was so calm that they could not have been ordinary humans. This is one of the most debated cases, and there is still no clear answer as to whether it was an encounter with aliens or with a person who possessed an extraordinary charisma and strength. Who are the Northerners? Many theories attempt to explain the origins of these beings. Some believe they are simply highly advanced beings from another planet who visited Earth in ancient times and have been observing us ever since. There are also those who claim that the Northerners could be descendants of ancient civilizations that existed before recorded history. For example, according to some hypotheses, they might be descendants of the vanished civilizations of Atlantis or Lemuria. It is important to mention that many testimonies suggest that the Northerners possess not only physical characteristics, but also unusual abilities. They are said to be able to sense the emotions and thoughts of others and are capable of easily communicating with animals and the forces of nature. These abilities are often linked to their role as teachers, mentors, or guardians of knowledge, which is passed on only to those who are ready to understand and use their wisdom. However, there is also another point of view that questions the benevolent intentions of the Northerners. According to this theory, they came to Earth to exploit the planet's resources, hiding behind a mask of altruism and assistance. They might be part of an ancient civilization that used our planet as an experimental base. In this case, their benevolence would be merely a part of a more complex and possibly manipulative plan. Parallels with the myths and history of Northern peoples. If we look at the mythology and folklore of Northern peoples, we can see remarkable parallels with modern stories about the Northerners. In Scandinavian myths, there are beings who travel between worlds, possess secret knowledge, and can intervene in the course of human history. Some researchers believe that these myths could be based on real events that occurred thousands of years ago. One of the most striking examples is the image of the Valkyries, war goddesses who took the souls of fallen warriors to Valhalla. These women were not only associated with war but also possessed incredible powers and knowledge that allowed them to control even natural phenomena like the weather. Perhaps the image of the Valkyries hides elements of ancient encounters with the Northerners, which were interpreted through the lens of mythology. Another interesting point is the connection between the Northerners and divine beings who come to the aid of humans at moments of greatest danger. For example, in Scandinavian legends, the god Odin, like many other gods, often appears at times when humanity is on the brink of destruction. This may symbolize the appearance of the Northerners at critical moments for humanity, when they can either save or manipulate the situation. The mystery of the Northerners continues to this day, and every year more and more testimonies emerge about possible encounters with these beings. Some researchers are convinced that they are not just myths, but real entities that still influence the development of Earth. Others believe that the entire myth about the Northerners is nothing more than another mind game, created for the purpose of manipulation. The question that remains relevant is, what if the Northerners are not actually aliens from another planet, but something much more mysterious? Perhaps they are beings from other realities, or even from the future, trying to warn us of a potential catastrophe, or simply helping us avoid mistakes that could lead to our destruction. Whatever answers we seek, one thing remains clear: stories about the Northerners stir our imagination, making us wonder what might really be hidden beyond the boundaries of our perception. Why are we so eager to unravel this mystery? Perhaps it is because the stories of the Northerners and their mysterious appearances touch not only on myths and legends, but also on the most crucial questions of humanity. What if we are not alone in the universe? What if there is someone who is watching us and even helping us at the most pivotal moments in our history? The Northerners, like many other mythical beings, possess immense potential to influence human fate, Perhaps they are not just ancient extraterrestrials, but bearers of knowledge that we cannot fully comprehend. This knowledge could pertain to both technological development and understanding the nature of life, as well as the very structure of the universe. And here's what is interesting. In various cultures, there are many testimonies about these benevolent brothers, yet they tend to appear at moments when civilization stands at a crossroads. We see this in the history of ancient peoples, where the Northerners were those who brought knowledge and salvation when civilizations faced the threat of destruction. But there is also a darker version of this story. Not all accounts of encounters with the Northerners can be considered harmless. Some claim that the beings who asserted they were extraterrestrials actually used humans as their own labor force to extract resources. There is a belief that at certain points in history, the Northerners may have secretly controlled significant events or even entire nations. Their ability to influence the destinies of people and nations may be part of their true agenda. And if this is the case, then we may be faced with the reality that they are not as harmless as they seemed. One of the most intriguing theories is that the motives of the Northerners remain hidden even to the most observant researchers. They may help, but why? Could it be that their benevolent intentions are just a pretext for hidden goals that we cannot understand? All these questions once again cast doubt on the reality of these beings and make us question how we perceive their intervention. Take, for example, recent cases of mass UFO sightings, where people have described encounters with entities that not only had peaceful intentions but also influenced human consciousness. Some speculate that these Northerners may act as mentors, overseeing the development of humanity on a global scale. Their intervention might not be accidental. Perhaps they are monitoring our progress, analyzing how close we are to understanding the mysteries of the universe. However, for more skeptical individuals, all of this may appear as a carefully planned manipulation. What if these beings did not come with good intentions, but with the goal of conducting experiments on humans, extracting information from us, or acquiring resources necessary for their purposes? We also cannot rule out that some encounters with the Northerners might have been part of psychological experiments or even games with the human mind. What lies ahead for us in the future? Perhaps the day will come when we will truly understand who the Northerners are and what their role is in our history and destiny. With the development of technology and our understanding of the universe, we may be much closer to unraveling the mystery of these enigmatic beings. Will this day be marked by a discovery that changes the entire history of humanity? Or will we find ourselves facing the same unanswered questions? Many scientists and researchers are convinced that the future of humanity is closely tied to contact with other civilizations. Perhaps these contacts are already occurring, and we simply cannot fully comprehend them. It's possible that the Northerners are not just an ancient myth, but a part of a much larger process that we have yet to fully understand. We are living in an era of technological change, which may open new horizons for us, and perhaps now is the time when we can learn the truth about the existence of these extraterrestrials and their role in our fate. Questions that remain unanswered, however. Despite all the research and hypotheses, we still do not know who the Northerners are and what they want from us. Questions about their origin, motives, and intentions remain open. Some consider them friends, others manipulators, and some are even convinced that they are fantasies born from human imagination. However, one thing remains unchanged. The legends of the Northerners stir the minds of people, making us search for answers and try to unravel this mystery. So, were the Northerners truly benevolent brothers, as some witnesses claim, or are they just another deception, a carefully planned game to manipulate our emotions and minds? Could their intervention really be part of a greater mission, or is there something much darker and more mysterious behind it? All these questions will remain with us until we can uncover their essence. But perhaps it is this very search that makes us who we are: curious, striving to understand the world around us. But if all this is just a myth, why is it so persistent? Why are more and more people convinced that someone is watching, interfering, and controlling events behind the scenes of the global stage. In the early 2000s, the topic of reptilians experienced a revival thanks to the internet. Forums, YouTube channels, and pseudo-documentary films turned the theory into a meme, yet at the same time, it became the subject of serious debate. It is especially widely discussed in connection with mysterious events, mass disasters, and high-profile political decisions. For supporters of the theory, every new incident is a potential confirmation of their beliefs. Some ideas have gained particular popularity, for instance, that reptilians are not just aliens, but inhabitants of underground civilizations. Allegedly, they live in deep inner-Earth cities, travel through tunnel networks, and maintain bases in remote regions such as Antarctica or the Himalayas. According to this version, official governments are aware of this, but remain silent. There is another twist to the theory. Some claim that reptilians are an ancient terrestrial race that evolved alongside humans. According to this hypothesis, millions of years ago, these highly developed reptilian beings went underground, foreseeing a threat from the surface. Now, they are returning to reclaim control. Hollywood hasn't stayed on the sidelines. Films like Men in Black, They Live, and V have become part of the cultural code that fuels reptilian mythology. Alien invaders capable of taking human form are now a familiar trope. Yet audiences still eagerly search these stories for hidden hints of reality. Cartoons, comic books, even children's shows, sometimes, seemingly by accident, they include scenes where characters briefly reveal a reptilian nature. Believers interpret this as a hidden message, supposedly delivered through mainstream culture. Psychologists point out that belief in hidden powers is a way of coping with anxiety in the face of the unknown and the uncontrollable. When the world is full of economic crises, conflicts, and technological upheavals, it's easier to believe that none of it is random, but rather part of a deliberate plan, even if it's not a human one. Interestingly, believers often see themselves as awakened. They claim to have discovered a truth others failed to notice. Belief in reptilians becomes more than just a theory. It turns into a mindset, a lens through which they interpret reality. There are people who claim to have seen reptilians with their own eyes. Some present themselves as former employees of government agencies, others as participants in classified projects. Their descriptions are often consistent: a tall being with greenish-grey skin, eyes with vertical pupils, telepathic abilities, and incredible physical strength. One of the most well-known witnesses is a man who introduced himself as Corporal Brian. In the early 2000s, he claimed to have served at an underground base and witnessed strange reptilian entities working alongside humans. According to him, these beings did not speak aloud but transmitted thoughts directly into the mind. Their behavior appeared cold and rational, and their gaze disturbingly alien. Such stories are hard to verify. Some consider them pure fabrication, others see them as distorted memories, and some regard them as revelations. If we set aside mysticism and approach the question rationally, could intelligent reptilian beings really have existed? Some paleontologists have proposed a hypothesis. Had dinosaurs not gone extinct 65 million years ago, one branch might have evolved into a sentient species. The so-called Dilophosauride or Truden possessed a relatively large brain, grasping limbs, and stereoscopic vision, traits associated with intelligent life. Scientists have even produced hypothetical reconstructions of a dinosauroid, a creature that bears a striking resemblance to the beings described by believers in the reptilian theory. On the other hand, the idea of humanoid reptiles capable of assuming human form implies a level of technology or biology far beyond what exists on Earth. Molecular-level camouflage, full control over the body, the ability to alter eye shape and skin texture, all of this remains far out of reach, even for the most advanced genetic engineering. And yet, the theory endures. It is sustained not only by unexplained video footage, but also by our own imagination, which resists simple explanations. One could say that the reptilian theory is more than just an alternative history. It's a mirror. It reflects our fears, our distrust of authority, our sense of losing control over our own lives. In this sense, reptilians don't need to be real to feel real. They are an archetype, a symbol of a cold, alien intelligence pulling the strings behind the familiar world. And perhaps that's exactly why the theory persists. Eras change, presidents come and go, borders shift, but the idea that those in power are not who they appear to be remains. First it was gods, then demons, now reptilians. Who will it be next? There's also a more philosophical perspective, reptilians as a metaphor. A cold, calculating intellect, devoid of human emotion. Isn't that how we often imagine those in positions of power, making decisions that shape millions of lives? Perhaps the image of the reptilian is an attempt to explain why authority can sometimes feel inhuman. Paradoxically, the more science advances, the more interest grows in such theories. People aren't just searching for answers, they're searching for meaning. They want to believe there is some kind of hidden order behind the chaos, even if it's terrifying and alien. This is the power of myth. It explains the unexplainable, gives shape to the shapeless, and offers structure in the midst of darkness. Naturally, the reptilian theory has its critics. Journalists, researchers, and scientists point out that all the so-called evidence amounts to either optical illusions, video editing tricks, or active imagination. They warn that excessive belief in such ideas can distract people from real issues and undermine trust in institutions meant to protect society. But this raises another important question. Do those institutions always deserve our trust? When those in power make mistakes, conceal information, or deliberately manipulate public opinion, the space for conspiracy theories grows on its own. In the end, perhaps it doesn't really matter whether reptilians literally exist. What matters more is why millions of people believe in them. Because this story offers answers where the official narrative remains silent. Because it captivates, intrigues, and ignites the imagination. Reptilians aren't just beings from conspiracy lore. They are a symbol, an image of something that frightens, fascinates, and lures us all at once. And as long as the world holds mysteries and unanswered questions, the myth will live on. So the next time you look into the eyes of a famous politician, a TV host, or a pop culture icon, and you think you catch a glimpse of a narrow, vertical slit in the pupil, who knows? Maybe you really did see something, or maybe you've simply become part of the oldest, most persistent, and most mysterious story humanity has ever told. The theory of reptilians is more than just a myth or a strange fantasy from the depths of the internet. It's a reflection of our inner anxiety, our timeless question: who truly controls this world? Why do some decisions feel so inhuman, so distant, so cold? Why is there so much chaos, pain, and injustice, and so few real answers? Belief in reptilians may seem absurd, but look deeper. It ties together ancient myths, fear of the unknown, distrust of authority, and a longing for hidden meaning. People have always created legends to explain what lies beyond understanding. Once, we spoke of demons. Later, secret orders. Now, humanoid reptilians hiding behind the faces of politicians and celebrities. The essence of these stories isn't in their form, it's in the emotions they awaken. Skeptics may mock the slitted eyes and underground city theories all they want, but they're laughing at the symptoms, not the cause. And the cause is our desire to understand the world, our fear of an invisible hand, our sense that someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes. When official explanations don't bring peace of mind, people turn to alternative ones, even if they sound fantastic. What truly matters is this: the reptilian theory isn't just about aliens. It's about us. How free are we? How clearly do we see the truth? And how much are we becoming like the very beings we fear, cold, emotionless, obsessed with control? To believe or not is each person's choice. But maybe the real point of this theory isn't to reveal an alien secret, it's to awaken curiosity. to push us to ask uncomfortable questions, to make us stop and truly observe what's happening to us, to our lives, and to our world. Because sometimes, the wildest stories are the ones that make us search for truth the hardest. And who knows, maybe reality is even stranger than any fiction. So stay sharp. In a world full of masks and illusions, truth always hides where we least expect it. Imagine this. You're an archaeologist, and in your hands lies a clay tablet 5,000 years old. On it, cuneiform symbols tell the story of powerful beings who descended from the heavens to rule over mankind. These beings possessed incredible technologies, could fly between stars, and created human civilization. Sounds like science fiction, yet these are exactly the kind of texts scientists discover when excavating ancient Mesopotamia. Welcome to the enigmatic world of the Anunnaki, one of the most controversial topics in modern archaeology and alternative history. Who were these mysterious beings? Ancient gods born from human imagination, or real extraterrestrials who visited our planet in the distant past? To understand the phenomenon of the Anunnaki, we must journey to ancient Mesopotamia, in the territory of modern-day Iraq. Here, approximately 6,000 years ago, the first known human civilization emerged, the Sumerian. These remarkable people gave the world writing, the wheel, astronomy, mathematics, and a complex legal system. But the most astonishing aspect of Sumerian culture was their detailed accounts of gods they called the Anunnaki. Translated from Sumerian, this means those who came from heaven to earth. According to ancient texts, the Anunnaki were a race of highly advanced beings who ruled both the heavens and the earth. Chief among them was Anu, lord of the sky, father of gods. His sons Enlil and Enki divided power over air and water between themselves. Enlil became ruler of the atmosphere and earth, while Enki gained dominion over underground waters and wisdom. The Anunnaki pantheon included several hundred deities in total, each with their own functions and responsibilities. What makes Sumerian texts particularly intriguing is the incredible detail in their descriptions of the Anunnaki. Unlike the vague myths of other cultures, the Sumerians left detailed technical descriptions of their gods and their activities. In the Epic of Gilgamesh and other texts, the celestial chariots of the Anunnaki are described as capable of moving through air and between worlds. There are mentions of palaces in the heavens and fiery dragons on which the gods descended to earth. Enki is described as a being possessing genetic knowledge and capable of molding living creatures from clay, which modern researchers interpret as possible genetic experiments. Particularly striking is the description of human creation. According to Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki created humans not from nothing, but by mixing their divine essence with clay of the earth. The texts speak of the goddess Ninti, who took clay from the abyss and mixed it with the flesh and blood of a god, creating the first humans. One of the most captivating elements of Sumerian cosmology is the mention of the mysterious planet Nibiru. According to ancient texts, this was the home planet of the Anunnaki, which had an elongated orbit and approached our solar system every 3,600 years. The Sumerians described our solar system with astonishing accuracy, including planets that were only officially discovered in the 19th and 20th centuries. They knew about the existence of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which seems impossible for a civilization without telescopes. Ancient Sumerian seals depict diagrams of the solar system with an additional planet between Mars and Jupiter. This planet is Nibiru, the world of the Anunnaki. According to the texts, it was from this planet that those who descended from heaven came to Earth. In the 1970s, linguist and historian Zecharia Sitchin created a real sensation with his interpretation of Sumerian texts. After spending decades studying cuneiform, he reached an astonishing conclusion. The Anunnaki were real aliens from the planet Nibiru. According to Sitchin's theory, approximately 450,000 years ago, representatives of an advanced civilization from Nibiru landed on Earth. They came here not for conquest, but with a practical purpose, mining gold, which was necessary to save the atmosphere of their home planet. Initially, the Anunnaki themselves engaged in gold mining, creating mines in South Africa, but the hard labor led to a revolt among the worker astronauts. Then the expedition leaders, Enlil and Enki, decided to create a workforce by genetically modifying local primates. Using their DNA and genetic material from Earth's hominids, they created Homo sapiens, modern humans. This very process is described in Sumerian texts as creating man from clay, where clay symbolizes biological material and breath of gods represents the genetic information of the aliens. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory point to numerous archaeological findings that, in their opinion, confirm the presence of an advanced civilization in antiquity. In South African mines, traces of gold mining dating back hundreds of thousands of years have indeed been discovered. These mines are so ancient that their creation is attributed to an unknown civilization that existed long before the appearance of modern humans. Ancient megalithic structures worldwide demonstrate a level of engineering mastery that seems impossible for the technologies of that time. The pyramids of Giza, Baalbek in Lebanon, Sacsayhuaman in Peru, all these structures are built with such precision and from such massive stones that modern science still cannot explain how ancient builders accomplished this task. Particularly intriguing are the images on ancient artifacts. On Sumerian seals, one can see beings in spacesuit-like helmets, surrounded by symbols resembling atomic or molecular diagrams. In Mayan and Aztec temples, images of gods descending from the sky in objects strikingly similar to modern rockets have been preserved. However, the scientific community regards the ancient astronaut theory with great skepticism. Archaeologists and historians point to numerous problems in the interpretation of Sitchin and his followers. First, many specialists in Sumerology claim that Sitchin incorrectly translated ancient texts. They note that Sumerian writing is extremely complex, and many words have multiple meanings depending on context. What Sitchin interpreted as celestial ships, traditional translators understand as poetic metaphors for divine power. Second, archaeologists explain ancient technological achievements not through alien intervention, but through underestimation of ancient civilizations' capabilities. Modern experiments have shown that pyramids and other megaliths would have been built using technologies available at that time, although this required exceptional skill and organization of thousands of workers. Regarding the astronomical knowledge of the Sumerians, scientists note that many accurate descriptions of planets could have been added to later copies of texts when astronomy had already reached the corresponding level of development. Planet Nibiru, astronomical reality or myth. Modern astronomy does not confirm the existence of planet Nibiru as described by the Sumerians. An orbit with a period of 3,600 years that would periodically bring a massive planet close to Earth would lead to catastrophic changes in the solar system, traces of which we would certainly have discovered. However, in recent years, astronomers have indeed discovered evidence of a large planet on the outskirts of the solar system. This hypothetical planet, X or ninth planet, has an orbit 20 times larger than Neptune's orbit and an orbital period of 10 to 20,000 years. Some researchers suggest that this very planet could have inspired ancient astronomers to create the myth of Nibiru. Perhaps ancient observers somehow knew about the existence of this distant world, although modern science cannot yet explain how they could have detected it. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Anunnaki theory is the question of modern human origins. Indeed, there are some puzzles in Homo sapiens evolution that still baffle scientists. About 300,000 years ago, there was a sharp leap in human brain development. Cranial capacity nearly doubled in just a few tens of thousands of years, an instant by evolutionary standards. This leap was so radical that some researchers call it a genetic miracle. Modern genetics has also discovered interesting facts. Analysis of mitochondrial DNA showed that all modern humans descended from a small group of ancestors living in Africa about 200,000 years ago. This group was so small, perhaps just a few thousand individuals, that geneticists call it an evolutionary bottleneck. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory claim that these facts confirm the idea of genetic intervention. They point out that the sharp leap in brain development and the limited number of ancestors may indicate directed selection or genetic modification. Remarkably, similar stories about gods from heaven appear in the mythologies of virtually all ancient civilizations. In Egypt, they tell of the Neteru, divine beings who arrived from the stars. Indian Vedas describe Vimanas, flying palaces of the gods. Greek myths tell of titans who taught humans civilization. In America, completely isolated from the old world, the Maya worshipped Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who descended from heaven. The Incas revered Viracocha, the creator who arrived from the stars. Even in Australia, Aborigines tell of lightning people who flew from the sky and taught them survival. These parallels are so striking that they make one wonder, could ancient civilizations have independently invented such similar stories? Or is there a real foundation behind all these myths, a memory of contact with representatives of an advanced civilization? Regardless of whether the Anunnaki were real aliens or products of human imagination, their story continues to fascinate millions of people worldwide. In an era when we ourselves are becoming a spacefaring civilization, the question of possible ancient contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations takes on special relevance. The SETI program continues searching for signals from other civilizations. The James Webb Space Telescope discovers new exoplanets, some of which may be habitable. Perhaps in the coming decades we will finally get an answer to the question, are we alone in the universe? Meanwhile, the story of the Anunnaki remains one of humanity's most captivating mysteries. Were they ancient gods born from humanity's need to explain the incomprehensible? Or real visitors from space who left traces in our genetic memory? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Perhaps ancient texts contain kernels of real events, distorted by time and repeated retellings. Or perhaps this entire story is merely testimony to the amazing power of human imagination and our eternal dream of meeting brothers in reason. One thing can be said for certain, the Anunnaki mystery continues to inspire researchers, writers, and dreamers, reminding us that there are still many blank spaces in our planet's history, waiting for their discoverers. Picture this: a dark September night in 1961. A married couple is driving home after vacation when suddenly their car stops on a desolate road in New Hampshire. The next thing they remember is waking up in their own bed the following morning with a complete memory gap and a strange feeling that something unimaginable had occurred. This very story began one of the most puzzling mysteries of modern ufology, humanity's connection with the alleged civilization from the Zeta Reticuli star system. Betty and Barney Hill became the first people whose alien abduction story received widespread publicity. But the most astounding element of their account wasn't the contact story itself, but rather the detailed star map that Betty allegedly saw aboard the spacecraft. Under hypnosis, she reproduced the diagram with remarkable accuracy, showing the arrangement of stars and trade routes between worlds. For years, this map remained a mystery, until in 1969, amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish made a discovery that shook the scientific community. Using a three-dimensional model of stars nearest to Earth, she found a striking correspondence between Betty Hill's map and the actual location of the Zeta Reticuli star system, a binary star located 39 light-years from our planet. Zeta Reticuli represents a remarkable binary star system in the constellation Reticulum, visible only from Earth's southern hemisphere. Both stars in this system are yellow dwarfs, strikingly similar to our Sun. Zeta 1 Reticuli is slightly larger and brighter than our star, while Zeta 2 Reticuli is virtually identical to the Sun in mass and brightness. The distance between the two stars is approximately 350 astronomical units, about 9 times the distance from the Sun to Pluto. They orbit around their common center of mass with a period of several 100,000 years. What particularly intrigues scientists is the system's age, approximately 6 to 7 billion years, which is 1.5 to 2 billion years older than our solar system. If we assume the existence of planets in the Zeta Reticuli system, conditions for life development there could be quite favorable. Both stars are in that age range where they're stable enough to support life, yet old enough for any civilization to achieve a high level of technological advancement. Hypothetical planets in the habitable zone of each star would receive steady light flow for billions of years. The binary nature of the system would create unique conditions. A planet could receive light from 2 suns, which would be fundamentally different from Earth's conditions. Day and night cycles, seasons, tides and flows, all these phenomena would unfold completely differently. According to the testimonies of the Hills and numerous subsequent witnesses describing contacts with representatives of this civilization, beings from Zeta Reticuli possess quite distinctive physical characteristics. Their height is approximately 3 to 5 feet. They have disproportionately large heads with enormous, black eyes that occupy a significant portion of their faces. Their skin is described as grey-white, smooth, with almost no hair coverage. Limbs are thin with long fingers, often mentioned as having only 4 fingers on each hand. Particularly striking is the description of their eyes, completely black, without visible pupils or irises, which according to eyewitnesses possess a hypnotic effect and the ability to transmit information telepathically. If we believe numerous testimonies, the technological level of the Zeta Reticuli civilization significantly exceeds Earth's. Their spacecraft are described as disc-shaped objects capable of instantaneous acceleration, hovering in the air without visible propulsion systems, and moving at speeds that violate the laws of physics as we know them. Of particular interest are descriptions of their medical technologies. Witnesses describe complex medical procedures conducted with incomprehensible instruments, capabilities for genetic analysis, and even hybridization. Many researchers suggest that if such a civilization truly exists, it could have reached a level of development where the boundaries between biology and technology are erased. The scientific community approaches stories about the Zeta Reticuli civilization with justified skepticism. Critics point to the absence of material evidence, inconsistencies in witness testimonies, and the possibility of psychological explanations for observed phenomena. Astrophysicists note that interstellar travel over a distance of 39 light-years represents a colossal technical challenge even for a highly advanced civilization. Energy expenditures for such a journey would be astronomical, and travel time, even at speeds close to light, would take decades. Modern astronomy actively searches for planets in the Zeta Reticuli system using the latest telescopes and detection methods. No definitively confirmed planets have been discovered in this system to date, though this doesn't rule out their existence. Exoplanet detection technologies are constantly improving, and Earth-type planets in the habitable zones of Sun-like stars remain extremely difficult to detect. The SETI project regularly directs radio telescopes towards Zeta Reticuli, listening to space in search of artificial signals. These attempts haven't been successful so far, but the search continues using increasingly sensitive equipment. Regardless of the reality of the Zeta Reticuli civilization's existence, this concept has had an enormous impact on modern culture. The image of grey aliens has become the archetypal representation of extraterrestrials in popular consciousness, appearing in countless movies, books, and television shows. The Hills story spawned an entire genre of literature and cinema dedicated to contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. It also contributed to the development of ufology as a field of research, drawing attention from both enthusiasts and serious scientists to the problem of searching for extraterrestrial life. Psychologists offer various explanations for the phenomenon of contact stories with Zeta Reticuli representatives. These include false memories arising under hypnotic influence, cultural influence of science fiction literature and films, as well as psychological states related to stress or trauma. The phenomenon of parallel memories is explained by the fact that details of abduction stories are often remarkably similar among different people, which could indicate either the reality of events or the influence of common cultural archetypes and expectations. Today, research in the field of searching for extraterrestrial life has reached a new level. The launch of next-generation space telescopes, such as the James Webb Space Telescope, opens unprecedented opportunities for studying exoplanet atmospheres and searching for biomarkers, chemical compounds that could indicate the presence of life. The Breakthrough Listen program uses the most powerful radio telescopes to search for technological signals from advanced civilizations. Zeta Reticuli remains one of the priority targets for this type of research thanks to its unique status in ufological tradition. The story of the Zeta Reticuli civilization exists at a remarkable intersection of scientific research, human hopes, and cultural myths. Perhaps we'll never know for certain whether an advanced civilization exists in this distant star system, but the very fact that this story continues to inspire scientists to search for life in the universe and people to contemplate our place in the cosmos makes it significant regardless of its truth. Zeta Reticuli remains a symbol of humanity's drive to understand the unknown and our deep need to comprehend whether we are alone in the universe. And who knows, perhaps one day our telescopes will indeed detect signals of intelligence from this mysterious binary star system, forever changing our understanding of life in space. So, we've taken a fascinating journey through one of the most captivating mysteries of modern ufology. The Zeta Reticuli civilization story forces us to consider fundamental questions about our existence. Are we alone in the universe? Do intelligent beings exist somewhere among the stars, perhaps already observing our planet? Whether you believe in the reality of contacts with representatives from this distant star system or approach these stories with skepticism, their tremendous impact on our culture and science cannot be denied. The Hills account became a catalyst for developing modern astrobiology, SETI programs, and exoplanet detection technologies. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe the Zeta Reticuli stories reflect humanity's deep need for contact with something greater than ourselves. Or perhaps they're truly based on real events that science isn't yet ready to explain. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe in the existence of the Zeta Reticuli civilization? Do you consider interstellar travel possible? Or maybe you have your own theories about what happened to the Hills on that memorable September night in 1961. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. We have many more exciting stories ahead about cosmic mysteries, unexplained phenomena, and scientific discoveries. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore other star systems where extraterrestrial civilizations might exist, discuss the latest methods for searching for life in the universe, and examine the most intriguing UFO contact cases. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss new episodes. Space is full of mysteries, and we're just beginning to uncover them. Remember, the truth is out there, perhaps just 39 light-years away, in the mysterious system of two yellow stars in the Reticulum constellation. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Imagine this, right now, as you're watching this video, 450 light-years away from us, in the constellation of Taurus, something incredible is happening. In the star cluster known as the Pleiades, which our ancestors called the Seven Sisters, there may exist a civilization that has been watching our every move for thousands of years. Sounds like science fiction, but what if this is a reality we're only beginning to understand? The Pleiades. This name sends shivers down the spine of anyone who has ever gazed into the night sky. With the naked eye, we see 7 bright stars, but telescopes reveal the truth. There are over 1,000. This is a young star cluster, only 100 million years old. In cosmic terms, they're mere infants. But why have the Pleiades captured humanity's attention throughout history? Ancient Egyptians built pyramids oriented toward this constellation. The Maya created their calendars based on Pleiadian cycles. Australian Aborigines passed down legends of the Seven Sisters from generation to generation. Coincidence? Or something greater? The 20th century brought us the first documented evidence of contact with Pleiadians. The most famous case became the story of Billy Meyer, a Swiss farmer who, in 1975, claimed regular meetings with a representative of Pleiadian civilization named Senjais. Meyer presented hundreds of UFO photographs, conversation recordings, and detailed descriptions of Pleiadian technologies. Skeptics called him a fraud, but even the strictest experts couldn't completely debunk all his materials. Some photographs remain a mystery to analysts to this day. Who are the Pleiadians? According to numerous contactee testimonies, Pleiadians are a highly advanced humanoid race that surpasses us in development by thousands of years. They're described as beings about 170 centimeters tall, with fair skin, long hair, and strikingly blue eyes. But their main difference isn't in appearance, but in consciousness level. Pleiadians allegedly live in harmony with nature and each other, knowing no wars or conflicts. Their society is based on principles of love, wisdom, and spiritual development. Sounds utopian? Perhaps. But what if this isn't utopia, but a natural stage in the evolution of intelligent beings? How could an advanced civilization observe us? Modern science already gives us clues. We launch telescopes capable of detecting exoplanets thousands of light years away. We study the atmospheres of distant worlds, searching for signs of life. If Pleiadians truly surpass us by thousands of years, their observation technologies could be unimaginably sophisticated. Perhaps they use quantum fields for instantaneous information transmission. Or have they created a network of observation probes invisible to our instruments? Some researchers suggest that the mysterious fast radio bursts that astronomers detect throughout the universe might be signals from highly advanced civilizations. And many of these signals come precisely from the direction of the Pleiades. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Pleiadian theory is the traces of their presence in ancient cultures. Around the world, in completely different civilizations, we find remarkably similar mentions of star teachers from the Pleiades. In ancient Greek mythology, the 7 Pleiades sisters were daughters of the Titan Atlas. But what's interesting is that the Greeks believed these stars influenced human destinies and that wise mentors came from there. The Hopi Indians call the Pleiades the first mother and claim their ancestors came from there. Their legends tell of star people who taught them agriculture, astronomy, and spiritual practices. Even the Bible mentions the Pleiades. In the book of Job, God asks, "Can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades?" Some theologians interpret this as a hint at the special role of this constellation in the divine plan. In the 21st century, reports of Pleiadian contacts continue to grow. People worldwide tell of encounters with tall, fair-haired beings who transmit messages about humanity's future. Group contacts are particularly interesting. In 2010, in Peru, a group of 20 people simultaneously observed a luminous object appearing over the ancient city of Machu Picchu. All witnesses independently described identical details: a disc-shaped craft emitting bluish light and telepathic messages about the need to protect Earth. But why would an advanced civilization observe us? According to contactee reports, Pleiadians see humanity as younger siblings at a critical stage of development. We stand at the threshold of either self-destruction or breakthrough into the cosmic age. Pleiadians allegedly don't interfere directly in our affairs. They have a strict non-interference code, but they can guide us through contacts with individuals, inspire scientists and inventors, and warn of dangers. An interesting detail: many breakthrough discoveries of the 20th century were made by people who later spoke of strange dreams or sudden inspirations. Nikola Tesla spoke of voices that suggested solutions to him. Albert Einstein claimed that relativity theory came to him in a dream. Coincidences? Of course, skeptics demand scientific proof, and it exists. In 2017, astronomers discovered strange radio signals in the Pleiades cluster that don't fit the pattern of natural phenomena. The signals repeat with specific periodicity and contain mathematical sequences. Moreover, spectral analysis of some Pleiades stars shows anomalous heavy element content, a sign of possible technological activity. Official science isn't ready to draw conclusions about intelligent life yet, but the data is thought-provoking. Pleiadian contactees often transmit warnings about future events. Amazingly, many of these predictions come true with striking accuracy. In 1980, a Canadian contactee received a message about a great earth upheaval in Japan in the year of the metal rabbit. According to the Eastern calendar, 2011 was precisely the year of the metal rabbit, and that's when the devastating earthquake and tsunami occurred in Fukushima. Another example, in 1995, a warning was transmitted about a disease that would stop the world in the third decade of the new century. The COVID-19 pandemic began precisely in 2020. If Pleiadians are truly observing us, there should be indirect signs of their presence. And there are. Satellites register unexplained anomalies in Earth's magnetic field that often coincide with mass UFO sightings. Radio telescopes pick up strange signals whose source is in the direction of the Pleiades. Even animals sometimes behave strangely, as if sensing an invisible presence. Particularly interesting are so-called temporal anomalies, cases where time seems to slow down or speed up in certain places. Many such zones are located at sites of ancient observatories oriented toward the Pleiades. Many Pleiadian contactees claim that the era of hidden observation is coming to an end. Humanity has matured for open contact with cosmic civilizations. But for this, we need to pass several more tests and prove we're ready to become part of the galactic community. Perhaps this is why there's so much talk about UFOs and extraterrestrial life now. Governments of different countries are beginning to declassify UFO files. Scientists openly discuss the possibility of intelligent life in the universe. Is this preparation for something greater? Are the Pleiadians watching humanity? There isn't enough scientific evidence yet for a definitive answer, but accumulating testimonies, ancient legends, and modern observations create a compelling picture. Perhaps we're not alone in the universe. Perhaps our elder siblings in consciousness are indeed observing our development, guiding us toward a bright future. And who knows, maybe very soon we'll receive an answer to this exciting question. After all, the Pleiades continue to shine in the night sky, reminding us of the cosmic mysteries we have yet to unravel. Today, as technology advances at incredible speed and humanity takes its first steps toward colonizing other planets, the question of our cosmic neighbors becomes especially relevant. Perhaps the Pleiadians are indeed waiting for that moment when we become worthy members of the galactic community. Every night, millions of people look up at the stars, and among them are surely those who see the twinkling lights of the Pleiades. What do these observers feel? Simple curiosity or ancient memory of their origins? Perhaps it's in these moments that an invisible connection between worlds occurs. Regardless of whether you believe in the existence of Pleiadians or approach this topic skeptically, one thing remains undeniable: humanity must never stop seeking answers to fundamental questions about life in the universe. After all, it's this drive for knowledge that makes us truly intelligent beings, ready to encounter the unknown. Picture this: on a deep night, you gaze at the starry sky. Thousands of twinkling points seem serene and peaceful. But what if something completely different lurks behind this cosmic silence? What if right now, billions of light years away from us, epic battles are unfolding between civilizations whose existence we don't even suspect? Today we'll dive into the captivating world of hypothetical intergalactic conflicts and try to understand, Can alien races truly wage wars against each other, and if so, what would drive such conflicts? Let's begin with a paradox that has troubled scientists for over 70 years. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi posed a simple yet piercing question. Where is everybody? He meant extraterrestrial civilizations. Mathematically, the probability of their existence seems enormous, yet we neither see nor hear them. According to astronomer Frank Drake's equation, formulated in 1961, thousands or even millions of intelligent civilizations should exist in our galaxy. The Milky Way contains about 400 billion stars, many of which have planetary systems. Even if only 1 in a million stellar systems spawned intelligent life, this would mean hundreds of thousands of civilizations in our galaxy alone. But why then do we hear nothing from space? One of the most disturbing explanations for this silence is called the Great Filter Hypothesis. According to this theory, there exists some barrier that is virtually impossible for most civilizations to overcome. And one such filter might be interstellar wars. If we assume that advanced civilizations truly exist, it's logical to ask, what would they fight over? Human history shows that conflicts arise from resources, territories, ideological disagreements, or simple fear of the other. On a cosmic scale, motives for conflict could be even more fundamental. Imagine a civilization that has exhausted the resources of its planetary system. Stellar energy, rare elements, habitable planets, all of these could become objects of interstellar expansion and, consequently, sources of conflict. Particularly valuable resources on a galactic scale would be stars of certain types. G-class stars, like our Sun, comprise only 7% of all stars in the galaxy, but they provide stable radiation for billions of years. A civilization that has mastered interstellar travel might consider such stellar systems strategically important assets. Not all hypothetical alien civilizations exist at the same level of development. Astrophysicist Nikolai Kotyshev in 1964 proposed a classification of civilizations based on their energy consumption. A Type 1 civilization uses all the energy of its planet, approximately 10 to the 16th power watts. Humanity currently stands at about 0.7 on this scale. A Type 2 civilization harnesses the energy of an entire star, building gigantic structures around it, Dyson spheres. Their energy consumption reaches 10 to the 26th power watts. A Type 3 civilization controls the energy of an entire galaxy, about 10 to the 36th power watts. Conflict between civilizations of different types would be extremely asymmetric. A Type 2 civilization could destroy a Type 1 civilization without even noticing, much like how construction workers might demolish an anthill without thinking about its inhabitants. In hypothetical interstellar conflicts, strategies could differ radically from terrestrial ones. Distances between stars are measured in light years, making rapid military campaigns in the conventional sense virtually impossible. One of the most effective strategies could be the colonization wave. A civilization launches autonomous replicator probes that reach stellar systems, reproduce using local resources, and send no probes further out. Such a wave could capture an entire galaxy in several million years, an instant by cosmic standards. Another strategy is sterilization. An advanced civilization could eliminate potential competitors in early stages of development, preventing them from reaching cosmic-level capabilities. This would explain the silence of the universe. All loudly speaking civilizations were destroyed, and only those who learned to remain silent survived. The weapons of advanced civilizations might seem like magic to us. Relativistic projectiles, objects accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, would possess destructive power comparable to a large asteroid impact. Moreover, they would be virtually impossible to detect and intercept in advance. Even more exotic weapons could be black holes as projectiles. A Type 2 civilization could theoretically create artificial black holes and direct them at enemy systems. Such a bomb would destroy not only planets, but the star itself. Nanotechnological weapons could operate more subtly, but no less effectively. Self-replicating nanomachines could secretly infiltrate planetary ecosystems and slowly, but inevitably destroy them from within. Science fiction writer Liu Cixin in his famous trilogy proposed the concept of the dark forest. According to this idea, the galaxy is like a dark forest full of hunters. Each civilization is a hunter, creeping through the darkness. It knows that other hunters are somewhere nearby, but doesn't know their intentions. In such a situation, discovering another civilization becomes mortally dangerous. Even if it seems peaceful, there's no guarantee it will always remain so. The only logical strategy is to eliminate a potential competitor at the first opportunity, before it becomes a threat. This theory explains the silence of space. All intelligent civilizations have learned to hide their existence because the loud civilizations were destroyed. However, not all interactions between civilizations need necessarily be hostile. Perhaps in the depths of space, complex diplomatic relationships exist between various races. Civilizations with similar resource needs might compete, while radically different life forms could find grounds for cooperation. For example, silicon-based life preferring cold worlds and carbon-based life needing warm planets could peacefully share a single star system. More complex alliances are also possible. Young civilizations might unite against ancient empires, while technologically advanced races might patronize less developed ones in exchange for certain services or resources. If interstellar wars truly occur, could we detect their traces? Theoretically, yes. Large-scale space battles would leave characteristic signatures in radiation. Destruction of stellar systems by relativistic weapons would create powerful gamma-ray bursts. Admittedly, we already observe such phenomena in the universe, but we explain them by natural causes, collapse of massive stars or collisions of neutron stars. Artificial structures around stars, Dyson spheres, or their fragments would create anomalous radiation spectra. Several candidates for such objects have already been discovered, including the famous Tabby's star, whose brightness changes in a completely unusual manner. How might an advanced civilization defend against interstellar threats? One strategy is distribution. Instead of concentrating in one stellar system, a civilization could scatter itself across multiple worlds, making complete annihilation virtually impossible. Another approach is camouflage. A civilization could hide signs of its existence, mimicking natural astronomical phenomena or using technologies that don't create detectable signals. Some civilizations might retreat into virtuality, transferring their consciousness into computer systems and minimizing energy and resource consumption. Such civilizations would be virtually invisible to external observers. The constant threat of interstellar conflicts could radically influence the evolution of intelligent species. Only those civilizations that developed effective strategies of concealment, defense, or aggression would survive. This could lead to the emergence of two main types of civilizations: wolves, aggressive expansionists, and rabbits, secretive survivors. Wolves actively hunt and expand their territory, while rabbits hide and avoid detection. Perhaps humanity belongs to the rabbits. We instinctively fear sending signals into space and actively search for extraterrestrial life, but try to remain unnoticed ourselves. Returning to the beginning of our journey through the dark corners of cosmic imagination, we see that the silence of the universe might be not emptiness, but a warning. Each star in the night sky could tell the story of civilizations that once flourished, fought, and perhaps vanished in the whirlwind of intergalactic conflicts. We don't know if somewhere out there, in the depths of space, wars are being waged between races we can only dream of, but the very possibility of their existence forces us to view our place in the universe anew. Perhaps the silence of space is not the absence of life, but its greatest wisdom. As we take our first steps toward the stars, it's worth remembering. Space might prove to be not an empty expanse for exploration, but an arena of ancient conflicts where the price of error is the existence of an entire civilization. Imagine this: Right now, as you're watching this video, 450 light-years away from us, in the constellation of Taurus, something incredible is happening. In the star cluster known as the Pleiades, which our ancestors called the Seven Sisters, there may exist a civilization that has been watching our every move for thousands of years. Sounds like science fiction, but what if this is a reality we're only beginning to understand? The Pleiades. This name sends shivers down the spine of anyone who has ever gazed into the night sky. With the naked eye, we see 7 bright stars, but telescopes reveal the truth. There are over 1,000. This is a young star cluster, only 100 million years old. In cosmic terms, they're mere infants. But why have the Pleiades captured humanity's attention throughout history? Ancient Egyptians built pyramids oriented toward this constellation. The Maya created their calendars based on Pleiadian cycles. Australian Aborigines passed down legends of the Seven Sisters from generation to generation. Coincidence? Or something greater? The 20th century brought us the first documented evidence of contact with Pleiadians. The most famous case became the story of Billy Meyer, a Swiss farmer who, in 1975, claimed regular meetings with a representative of Pleiadian civilization named Senjais. Meyer presented hundreds of UFO photographs, conversation recordings, and detailed descriptions of Pleiadian technologies. Skeptics called him a fraud, but even the strictest experts couldn't completely debunk all his materials. Some photographs remain a mystery to analysts to this day. According to numerous contactee testimonies, Pleiadians are a highly advanced humanoid race that surpasses us in development by thousands of years. They're described as beings about 170 centimeters tall, with fair skin, long hair, and strikingly blue eyes. But their main difference isn't in appearance, but in consciousness level. Pleiadians allegedly live in harmony with nature and each other, knowing no wars or conflicts. Their society is based on principles of love, wisdom, and spiritual development. Sounds utopian, perhaps, but what if this isn't utopia, but a natural stage in the evolution of intelligent beings? How could an advanced civilization observe us? Modern science already gives us clues. We launch telescopes capable of detecting exoplanets thousands of light-years away. We study the atmospheres of distant worlds, searching for signs of life. If Pleiadians truly surpass us by thousands of years, their observation technologies could be unimaginably sophisticated. Perhaps they use quantum fields for instantaneous information transmission. Or have they created a network of observation probes invisible to our instruments? Some researchers suggest that the mysterious fast radio bursts that astronomers detect throughout the universe might be signals from highly advanced civilizations. And many of these signals come precisely from the direction of the Pleiades. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Pleiadian theory is the traces of their presence in ancient cultures. Around the world, in completely different civilizations, we find remarkably similar mentions of star teachers from the Pleiades. In ancient Greek mythology, the 7 Pleiades sisters were daughters of the Titan Atlas. But what's interesting is that the Greeks believed these stars influenced human destinies and that wise mentors came from there. The Hopi Indians call the Pleiades the first mother and claim their ancestors came from there. Their legends tell of star people who taught them agriculture, astronomy, and spiritual practices. Even the Bible mentions the Pleiades. In the book of Job, God asks, "Can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades?" Some theologians interpret this as a hint at the special role of this constellation in the divine plan. In the 21st century, reports of Pleiadian contacts continue to grow. People worldwide tell of encounters with tall, fair-haired beings who transmit messages about humanity's future. Group contacts are particularly interesting. In 2010, in Peru, a group of 20 people simultaneously observed a luminous object appearing over the ancient city of Machu Picchu. All witnesses independently described identical details: a disc-shaped craft emitting bluish light and telepathic messages about the need to protect Earth. But why would an advanced civilization observe us? According to contactee reports, Pleiadians see humanity as younger siblings at a critical stage of development. We stand at the threshold of either self-destruction or breakthrough into the cosmic age. Pleiadians allegedly don't interfere directly in our affairs. They have a strict non-interference code, but they can guide us through contacts with individuals, inspire scientists and inventors, and warn of dangers. An interesting detail: many breakthrough discoveries of the 20th century were made by people who later spoke of strange dreams or sudden inspirations. Nikola Tesla spoke of voices that suggested solutions to him. Albert Einstein claimed that relativity theory came to him in a dream. Coincidences? Of course, skeptics demand scientific proof, and it exists. In 2017, astronomers discovered strange radio signals in the Pleiades cluster that don't fit the pattern of natural phenomena. The signals repeat with specific periodicity and contain mathematical sequences. Moreover, spectral analysis of some Pleiades stars shows anomalous heavy element content, a sign of possible technological activity. Official science isn't ready to draw conclusions about intelligent life yet, but the data is thought-provoking. Pleiadian contactees often transmit warnings about future events. Amazingly, many of these predictions come true with striking accuracy. In 1980, a Canadian contactee received a message about a great Earth upheaval in Japan in the year of the metal rabbit. According to the Eastern calendar, 2011 was precisely the year of the metal rabbit, and that's when the devastating earthquake and tsunami occurred in Fukushima. Another example: in 1995, a warning was transmitted about a disease that would stop the world in the third decade of the new century. The COVID-19 pandemic began precisely in 2020. If Pleiadians are truly observing us, there should be indirect signs of their presence. And there are. Satellites register unexplained anomalies in Earth's magnetic field that often coincide with mass UFO sightings. Radio telescopes pick up strange signals whose source is in the direction of the Pleiades. Even animals sometimes behave strangely, as if sensing an invisible presence. Particularly interesting are so-called temporal anomalies, cases where time seems to slow down or speed up in certain places. Many such zones are located at sites of ancient observatories oriented toward the Pleiades. Many Pleiadian contactees claim that the era of hidden observation is coming to an end. Humanity has matured for open contact with cosmic civilizations. But for this, we need to pass several more tests and prove we're ready to become part of the galactic community. Perhaps this is why there's so much talk about UFOs and extraterrestrial life now. Governments of different countries are beginning to declassify UFO files. Scientists openly discuss the possibility of intelligent life in the universe. Is this preparation for something greater? Are the Pleiadians watching humanity? There isn't enough scientific evidence yet for a definitive answer, but accumulating testimonies, ancient legends, and modern observations create a compelling picture. Perhaps we're not alone in the universe. Perhaps our elder siblings in consciousness are indeed observing our development, guiding us toward a bright future. And who knows, maybe very soon we'll receive an answer to this exciting question. After all, the Pleiades continue to shine in the night sky, reminding us of the cosmic mysteries we have yet to unravel. The story of Pleiadian observations is only beginning. Each year our technologies become more sophisticated, telescopes more powerful, and data analysis methods more precise. Perhaps within the next decade we'll receive irrefutable proof of intelligent life in the Pleiades star cluster. What would such a discovery mean for humanity? It would completely change our understanding of our place in the universe. We would realize that we were never alone, that wise elder siblings in consciousness were indeed watching over us. This knowledge could unite all Earth's peoples in the face of cosmic reality. Meanwhile, each of us can contribute to this search. Study the starry sky. Read scientific research, share your observations. After all, the truth about Pleiadians might be revealed not only to scientists in observatories, but also to ordinary people who haven't lost their ability to wonder at cosmic mysteries and believe in the impossible. Imagine this. In the dusty archives of scientific laboratories, documents are stored that could revolutionize our understanding of human nature. What if the boundaries between species aren't as immutable as we've come to believe? What if human history conceals secrets that official science prefers to keep silent about? Today we'll delve into one of the most mysterious and controversial topics of our time, the existence of hybrid humans. This journey will take us through the labyrinths of ancient legends, modern scientific discoveries, and theories that force us to reconsider our familiar notions about the possibilities of human biology. Human history is literally saturated with stories of beings combining human and non-human traits. Ancient Greek centaurs, Egyptian sphinxes, Slavic mermaids. Could all of this really be just the product of our ancestors' imagination? Or is there something greater hidden behind these mythological images? In Sumerian texts dating back over 5,000 years, the Anunnaki are mentioned, divine beings who allegedly created humans by mixing their genetic material with that of earthly primates. Of course, modern science treats such claims skeptically, but the fact itself is interesting. Why do virtually all ancient cultures have similar legends about hybrid beings? Medieval chronicles are full of mentions of strange discoveries. In 1437, monks from one European monastery described finding a skeleton that combined human bones with elements uncharacteristic of our species. The document mysteriously disappeared from the archives in the 18th century. The 20th century brought revolutionary discoveries in genetics that forced scientists to reconsider many established beliefs. In 1953, Francis Crick and James Watson deciphered the structure of DNA, opening the door to the world of genetic manipulation. Already in the 70s of the last century, the first successful experiments in interspecies gene transfer appeared. Scientists learned to introduce human genes into bacteria, forcing them to produce human insulin. This was the first step toward creating transgenic organisms. But how far can such experiments go? In 1974, biologist Rudolf Jenisch first created a transgenic mouse by introducing foreign DNA into its genome. This experiment opened the era of genetic engineering and raised the question: if it's possible to create hybrids at the level of individual genes, is it possible to create more complex hybrid forms? In the 2000s, a real breakthrough occurred in understanding human evolution. Deciphering the Neanderthal genome showed that modern humans carry 2 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. This means our ancestors didn't just coexist with other human species, they actively bred with them. The discovery of Denisovan man in 2008 added new colors to this picture. DNA analysis showed that some modern populations, especially in Oceania, carry up to 6% Denisovan DNA. We are literally living hybrids. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. In 2007, Japanese scientists announced the creation of the first human-animal chimera, an embryo containing both human and animal cells. The experiment was stopped at an early stage, but the very fact of its possibility opened new horizons. Do classified programs for creating hybrid humans exist? Some researchers claim that governments of leading world powers finance secret projects aimed at creating an enhanced human being. In 1958, the MKUltra program was launched in the USA, officially aimed at studying methods of mind control. Many documents from this program are still classified, which generates numerous theories about its true purposes. Interestingly, in the same year, Soviet biologist Ilya Ivanov conducted experiments on crossing humans and apes. Officially, these experiments were discontinued, but some researchers claim that the work continued in secret laboratories. The emergence of CRISPR technology in 2012 revolutionized genetic engineering. For the first time in history, scientists obtained a tool that allows editing the genome of living organisms with surgical precision. In 2018, Chinese scientist He Jiankui announced the birth of the first genetically modified children. Despite international condemnation, this case showed that the technology for creating genetically altered humans already exists. What if similar experiments are being conducted in secret laboratories around the world? What if hybrid humans are already living among us, but we simply don't know about it? Medical practice regularly encounters cases that are difficult to explain from the perspective of traditional biology. Chimerism syndrome, when cells with different genetic codes coexist in one organism, occurs more often than is commonly believed. In 2002, a case was described of a woman whose DNA analysis from different parts of her body showed different results. It turned out she had absorbed her twin in the womb, becoming a living chimera. There are documented cases of people with unusual physical characteristics, superhuman strength, the ability to see in the ultraviolet spectrum, resistance to radiation. Are these mutations or the results of experiments? Some people demonstrate abilities that go beyond ordinary human capabilities. Savantism is a condition where a person possesses outstanding abilities in certain areas while having general developmental limitations. Kim Peek, the prototype for the main character in the movie Rain Man, could read a page or book in 10 seconds and memorize the contents of 12,000 books. His brain had unique structural features. The corpus callosum connecting the hemispheres was absent. Stephen Wiltshire can reproduce a detailed city panorama after a single helicopter flight over it. Daniel Tammet sees numbers as colored shapes and can perform the most complex calculations instantly. Could such abilities be the result of hybridization or genetic modifications? Or are these natural variations of the human genome pointing to the hidden potential of our species? Today, leading geneticists around the world are working on projects that seemed like fantasy just recently. Stem cell research allows growing human organs in animal bodies. Japan has already received permission to grow human organs in pigs. The Human Genome Project, completed in 2003, opened new possibilities for understanding human nature. But at the same time, it raised new questions. Why do humans have so few genes compared to some plants? Where did the sections in our genome that have no evolutionary predecessors come from? The development of genetic engineering poses complex ethical questions for humanity. Where is the line between treating genetic diseases and enhancing human abilities? Do we have the right to change human nature? The Vatican and most religious organizations oppose experiments with the human genome, considering them interference with divine plan. But the scientific community argues that gene therapy can rid humanity of hereditary diseases. Perhaps in just a few decades, creating hybrid humans will become reality. Technologies are developing at incredible speed, and what seems like fantasy today may become commonplace tomorrow. Some futurologists predict the emergence of posthumans, beings who will retain human consciousness but possess enhanced physical and intellectual abilities. Others warn of the danger of losing human nature. Do hybrid humans exist? This question remains without a definitive answer. Science continues to push the boundaries of the possible, revealing new aspects of human nature. Perhaps we are all hybrids, the result of millions of years of evolution and interspecies breeding. Perhaps people with altered genomes are already living among us, and we simply don't know about it. One thing can be said with certainty: the boundary between possible and impossible is becoming increasingly blurred. And who knows what discoveries await us in the future? Perhaps the answers to the most fundamental questions about human nature are hidden not in distant stars, but in the depths of our own genetic code. The story of hybrid humans continues, and each of us is part of it. The only question is whether we are ready to accept the truth when it is finally revealed. Modern technologies already allow us to glimpse into a future where the boundaries between natural and artificial will become indistinguishable. Artificial intelligence helps decipher genetic codes, Quantum computers model the most complex biological processes, and nanotechnology opens possibilities for intervention at the cellular level. What awaits humanity in 100 years? Perhaps our descendants will look at us the same way we look at Neanderthals, as a primitive, though related, form of life. Perhaps human evolution is just beginning, and hybridization will become a natural stage in the development of our species. But the main question remains, will we preserve what makes us human, the ability for compassion, creativity, love? Or in the pursuit of perfection will we lose our soul? The mystery of hybrid humans is not just a question of science, but a choice for our future. After a strange object was spotted in Zimbabwe, people from all over the country began calling the ZBC channel to describe the UFO they had seen. When exactly did this happen? During recess, I saw small flickering lights. The being was quite close. You could see it in detail. Was it like an ordinary person or not? It was all black. Black, yes. And the eyes were narrow and of a very strange shape. I saw this creature. It had big eyes. I thought the aliens would attack me. Attack you? Why? What if they abduct us? I'm scared. Damn scared. I'm terrified. Do you think the children are telling the truth? I don't want to think about it at all, because otherwise I'll have another sleepless night. It seemed like it was looking at all of us at once. Its gaze seemed to say, I want you to come with me. Come on. How did you feel when it was looking at you? I was scared. Something happened to these people. We can't understand it, but something happened to them. And their minds are fine. They're not mentally ill. More than 60 children saw the same thing I did. We didn't make anything up. The truth always comes out. Nobody knows exactly how, but eventually the truth will surface. At approximately the same time, people saw unexplainable things in the sky. Are we alone in the universe? Some data should indeed be seriously studied. We didn't hide anything. Interplanetary ships exist. I thought it was an alien with huge eyes. Something very important, genuine and authentic is happening here. I'm Ralph Blumenthal. For a full 45 years I was a reporter for the New York Times. Now I collaborate with them and write books. I know from personal experience that in this field we most often risk being ridiculed. And this is not a coincidence. Unfortunately, in the 50s our government made a decision to ridicule people who saw UFOs and told strange stories about it. These prejudices are alive to this day. In 2017, the New York Times published a series of bombshell articles exposing the Pentagon's secret program that dealt with investigating unidentified aerial phenomena. When you write something, you never know what effect it will have. The article came out on the front page of the Sunday edition and caused a sensation. We added several videos to the article. These were military recordings that had never been published before. These videos became some of the most popular in New York Times history. These aren't my words, that's what people say. But thanks to this, the topic became popular in mass media, and it became easier for people to talk about this subject. But we didn't talk about aliens, and the Pentagon didn't talk about them either. This is an area we decided not to touch, and there was a reason for that. Because how does it usually happen? You come to an editor and say, there's a story. A guy saw a UFO in his backyard. And the editor laughs and says, okay, keep it to 500 words and make it funny. But for those who actually saw UFOs, it's usually no laughing matter. They know what they saw. They saw something they can't explain. Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean we can't talk about it. It was great studying at Ariel. We spent little time in the classroom. And on the way to school you could meet a giraffe. You know, it's like an amusement park right next to the school, next to the high school. Where are your hats? The teachers at this school really loved their job. You must wear your hats. We were a community and could undoubtedly trust all the surrounding adults, whether teachers or volunteers. Thanks to them, we felt safe and among our own. Ariel School was like a second family. I went to Ariel School. It's an excellent private school. Quite a lot of time was devoted to studying the Bible, explaining many things from a Christian perspective. My brother also studied there. This influenced what I had to go through, my attitude towards what happened. Why are we here? To hear my story? And what is your version of events? What I saw on that very day? It's time to tell the world about it. September 16, 1994, we had just gone out for recess. I was in 6th grade. The teachers had some kind of meeting, and Solma and I went to walk around the grounds. I remember we saw a bright light very close, right above the grass. Solma and I became curious about what it was. It sparkled very brightly and kept appearing and disappearing, as if our eyes were deceiving us. And then my friend Emma and I. She was standing next to me. I saw this thing hovering above the ground. It was big, and small ones were circling around it. It seemed like they were exchanging spaceships. They were like ants, doing their business, whatever it was. And the ships were right here. One was big, a shiny silver disc with lights. There were lights in the lower part, as if. Then I saw some kind of door. I blinked and saw this being at a distance of 1 or 2 meters from me. And suddenly it was there, standing right in front of us. The day was clear and sunny, so it was hard to confuse it with something else. The being stood in this very place, no further, and you could see it well. Its clothing was black, tight-fitting, like a diving suit, and it had a very large head, oval, with a pointed chin. It tapered like this, similar to a diving suit. It had big eyes. That's all I saw. Huge eyes and a black body. These huge eyes that were impossible not to look at. And as soon as we made eye contact, everything around just disappeared. What scared you? The noise. What noise that was heard in the air? Noise in the air, yes. What was it like? Like a roar, buzzing, humming. What kind of noise was it? Like someone playing a flute. No one touched me physically, but I felt that this gaze felt all over my body. That's when I started to feel their message. Thoughts just penetrated directly into me, into my consciousness. These weren't conversations. Rather, it was practically telepathy. I experienced. I was overwhelmed by an understanding of the importance of the surrounding world, awareness that we must make the environment our main priority and make all decisions taking into account the interests of the environment. We need fresh air, flowers, clean soil to live and rejoice, from animals to plants, in general everything that surrounds us. I think they want people to know what harms this world, and that we shouldn't. Technology. At that age I couldn't even pronounce the word technology. Adults were interviewing me, and I was saying, we need to slow down technological progress. You understand, the essence of the message was clear. Progress won't bring benefit. Technology will continue to develop, but this won't lead humanity to any good. How exactly did you understand this? Through words or, I think, subconsciously. How did your subconscious tell you? Subconsciously. It just came to mind. I had never felt such an interconnection before. Unfortunately, what happened next was no longer so peaceful and pleasant. The last time I was here was about 20 years ago, maybe more. That was right when I finished aerial school. I remember my mother wanted me to come here. It's so wonderful in nature. Dallin, former student. Did you see a UFO? No, I didn't see one. I made it all up. My friend and I were discussing how to skip Shona language class. We had friends who were indigenous Zimbabweans, and Shona was their native language. We needed to pay more attention to the language. I didn't know it well, but I tried to skip Shona lessons by any means possible. We came up with a crazy idea that probably couldn't work. I don't see it now, but at that time there was a stone there, a shiny stone. It gleamed so brightly in the sun. I pointed at it and said, "That's a spaceship. There are aliens there." And the younger kids were like, "Really?" And I told them, "Yes, aliens." Half an hour later, all the children were talking about it. They were running back and forth. The whole school was in an uproar. It could have been a split second, or it could have been 10 minutes. I only know that when I was able to let go of Emma's hand, chaos reigned on the playground. About 60 children saw the same thing I did. Short, with long arms, strange greenish oval head, very big eyes. And I was damn scared. I was terrified. Maybe it really was a shining stone. I don't know. But there definitely weren't any aliens there. What if they cut off our heads with lasers and all that? I was in a panic. Why would aliens appear at school and not contact anyone? They came from other galaxies. You wouldn't risk flying thousands of kilometers to talk to children. I didn't try to understand what would happen next. Why are they here? I don't think I even looked back because I was scared. I couldn't believe my eyes. All these people were pointing at the stone and saying, "It's a UFO. This happens with children." They play imaginary games and imperceptibly begin to sincerely believe in everything. It definitely wasn't a stone. I know what stones look like. Of course, someone will ask what else could it have been. Maybe it was this or that. And maybe. I didn't approach it or touch it. But it definitely wasn't a stone. No, if something like that happened, I hardly would have just stood and looked at this stone. I would have approached the alien. Would have climbed onto the ship. After all, when else would such an opportunity present itself to approach a real alien? People argue with me. They say I'm a liar. They say a lot of things. First of all, I must be honest with myself. And the truth is that there were no aliens there. Someone just started a rumor, and everyone believed they saw something. I apologize for disputing all your nonsense, guys. But I must be honest. I don't doubt what I saw then. I never doubted it. Let's be honest. Children lie. They're not as innocent as we'd like to think. So 60 people lied. Yes, 60 people lied. It was 1994. I had just finished a case about sexual abuse against the Catholic Church. I was sitting in my office when a very famous lawyer from the western part of the country called me. He said, "I have a case for you." And he told me about a Harvard professor who believed in aliens. Head of the psychiatric department at Cambridge Hospital, received a Pulitzer Prize, created the first outpatient psychiatric hospital, did enormous work, and now he's talking about some phenomenon involving aliens. And we don't understand anything. I thought he probably needed help from a good psychiatrist, but I was told that he was a staff member, and a secret hearing was about to take place in the Harvard committee, and they would strip him of his position. As I was told, this was the first such case in Harvard University's 350-year history. I became interested. He needs to be taken seriously. He received a Pulitzer Prize, built the psychiatric department at Cambridge Hospital from scratch, the crown jewel of Harvard's university clinics. Traditionally in psychiatry, if a patient comes to you and claims they had contact with aliens, you automatically assume that this person is most likely a psychopath. That was my reaction when I first heard about this case. John conducted more than 150 conversations with people who claimed they were abducted by aliens, and I spoke with about 7 to 10 of them. They all suffered greatly because no one wanted to listen to them. People considered them abnormal. John believed that they were mentally healthy, but they had trauma. As far as I could judge, and this was later confirmed, none of the 90 people I spoke with had mental illnesses that could explain this. When they describe something similar to what others describe, we say, yes, that didn't happen, but what did happen? What occurred? That's what John said. Did you yourself want to believe them, or were you a skeptic? I was a skeptic. I believed that such things were impossible. It simply couldn't happen. Such intelligence cannot exist in our universe. There must be some other explanation for all this. So let's find it. Let's carefully study all the details. That's what I would like to see. John becomes a celebrity. He appeared on all talk shows, everywhere in his wrinkled suit and stained tie. Over the past 4 years, Dr. Mack has examined hundreds of patients who claim they were abducted by aliens. Dr. Mack is a respected professor who teaches at Harvard University. Harvard psychiatrist. Harvard psychiatrist. He spoke directly. Harvard couldn't tolerate John appearing on television and linking Harvard with such a controversial topic. As a psychiatrist, I cannot explain this pattern. After the commercial, Sharon will tell about the fear she experienced when encountering an alien. At Harvard, they believed that John made a mistake, that he shouldn't have accepted these patients without treating them with medication or intensive psychotherapy, that they are mentally unhealthy, and that by listening to them and not doubting what they said they experienced, John was only harming them. Hundreds of thousands of people across the country, and according to polls, possibly even millions, found themselves in a very similar situation. They didn't know each other. The details of their stories weren't in the media. They gained no benefit. They were ashamed. That's the most important thing. Learning what happened even to children aged 2 to 3 years old, I ruled out any personal explanations. And as I already said, these people had no diagnosed mental disorders, which means they really went through this. His entire professional career was at stake, his medical license, but John decided, I won't back down, I'll go against them. Something inexplicable is happening, and we need to take it seriously, not ridicule people. John went to Rua, Zimbabwe, to prove that something serious happened to these people. And we need to look at things more broadly, not focus only on the material world. So how many of them actually say, what happened? I worked on a book about John Mack. In total, it took me 17 years. I was interested in the fact that John Mack risked his career to investigate, let's say, a very dubious story. You'll say, but there's no scientific evidence. There isn't. But Mack worked in a field where there generally isn't scientific evidence. I don't have to please everyone. I don't have to. This isn't a popularity contest. I must manage a good school with a good reputation. That's what I do. Why have I been here for 33 years? Maybe because I'm just lazy. Got up, got dressed, came. This is what you have to do every day, even if you don't want to. Whether I want it or not, I'm there because it's my duty. I run a Christian school, but I practice my own faith. I don't go to church to find God. I know He's here. He knows about my problems. There are things in life that you don't doubt. You just accept them. I'm not against that. Are you recording this? Yes. I feel like a child again. Yes. I'm breaking school rules. If Mrs. Bates finds out, she kill me. You try to live a normal life, move forward. But what you experienced constantly reminds you of itself. I heard how children, other children, were screaming, crying, and all my attention was absorbed by this being. I remember big black eyes. And I don't know if it was telepathy, but I remember well the message that was conveyed to me. We harm the planet, but in those times we children didn't really. We didn't discuss such things, we just forgot about it and moved on with our lives. These were painful memories. The next conversation took place when John Mack asked me to describe what we saw, and I realized that I could calmly discuss this with him. I knew that he believed our words. So, Professor Mack, you've been in Zimbabwe for 10 days. What can you say after speaking with the children from Ariel School? During these 2 days I tried to be unbiased and not think that perhaps one of these children simply had their imagination run wild, and then shared their story with friends. We individually questioned about 10 people. He was one of the last reporters to come to our school. Various journalists came to talk with us, but none of them took my words seriously. What did you feel looking into those eyes or under the gaze of those eyes? What did you experience? There was fear. Scary. Perhaps, after listening to me, they'll be able to understand and explain what's happening to me. Mom puts me to bed. After this, do you fall asleep right away or do you lie for some time and think? I lie for some time and flinch at the slightest sound. Are you scared at night? Yes. I see. And what scares you so much at night? I'm afraid that this person is still looking at me and that he will kill me. Does Mom know that you're scared? Have you told her about this? No. Most likely, she won't believe me. How can we convince you that you're safe? I don't know. What could reduce your fears? That person is always in my head. He doesn't leave your head, no. And how? How can we make you not afraid? Can we do something about this? No. Tell me what happened that day. Were you outside? Did this happen during recess? Yes, yes. And what was the first thing you saw? We went down to the playground. I'm drawing the ship and lights. Were the arms long or short compared to ours? Long. Quite long. Quite long, good. And hair? Yes. Did they have hair? Like Michael Jackson's, and black suits like this one? And big eyes? Good. You have pupils. Did they have pupils? Yes. They had white pupils, and eyes bigger than ours. What happened next? Did this happen at the end of recess? Then we went back to class and told the teacher about it, but none of the teachers believed us. They didn't believe you? Really? Yes. But everyone's story was the same. The teachers didn't believe us at all. They decided that we saw something, but didn't think these were beings. Yes, also this oval thing. At first we tried to ignore them. Cynthia Hind, headmistress, 1994. We continued to live as usual. I don't even remember talking about this with the children. We encountered something previously unseen and clung to what was familiar and understandable. At first we were told that it was a gardener who was working in the garden, and we were forbidden to discuss this topic further. I'm skeptical about children because they can convince themselves that they saw something and then agitate everyone else. They didn't see anything. I think someone made up this story. They invented everything. That's what I think. When you work with children for so long, you need to be careful interpreting what they tell you. They are independent. They can decide for themselves what to believe. Maybe they really believe they saw this, but alas, nothing like that happened. They're deceiving themselves. Maybe I did lie then, but everyone else continued the story for me. 60 children are lying. Lying about what they saw or what their friends convinced them of. That's quite a lot of children. If I have testimony from 5 teenagers that a teacher or priest is breaking the law, this is considered very strong evidence with which I'll win the case. Here we have a whole 60 people describing the same event, and we don't take this into account. This kind of evidence carries great weight in legal circles. In court we trust eyewitness testimony. Based on it, a person can even be accused of murder, sentenced to death, and have the sentence carried out. Max said, "This is my job. I'm a psychiatrist. I constantly communicate with people. I can see when they're telling the truth and when they're not, when they're making things up." When people told Mac the details of these stories, according to him, they behaved accordingly. In other words, they didn't hide the horror they experienced at that time, and he was firmly convinced that something like this isn't easy to fake. You know, this is hard for me because of this. Why? Because I don't want to believe it. I don't want to. All these people very emotionally expressed what was significant and important to them and what frightened them very much. As a psychiatrist, I believe they really experience all this. I wish they would talk to us more, ask questions, and not make us feel crazy. I didn't talk about this at home because my father didn't want to know what was happening. He didn't want me to shame him. My parents said directly, "No, you didn't see that." We were afraid of punishment. It's not about what we believe, it's about their personal experiences and how the adults around them perceived what they said. And it seems to me that this is one of the fundamental principles of education. Whatever your personal point of view, your prejudices, the main thing is that you give children the opportunity to openly share ideas, express their feelings and thoughts. Because of this I lost friends. For them I was touched, who refused to admit that it was a gardener, because I claimed that everything was real. At this stage there was a lot of public condemnation. Usually we don't invite people who make such statements on television. To be honest, such stories sound more than insane. In many ways, what actually happened was less traumatic than the consequences. And there were many consequences. This affected many people. Therefore, you need to ask yourself, Did these people have psychological problems before, or is it because of what happened and what they're talking about that they developed these psychological problems? In 4 years on air, we never once filmed a show about aliens. To be honest, it's because there are many skeptics among us. I always start with searching. I search, ask people, and at some point they start showing hostility. The most hostile turned out to be the youth pastor. He flew into a rage. He screamed, "No, there are no aliens." He tried to force me to stop asking these questions. And I even started to think that I myself was crazy. Why do we consider people abnormal and humiliate them for encountering some other entity, other intelligence? Why are people considered crazy for some knowledge and for sincere confidence in what they saw? If at the time when you're growing up, people don't believe in something that's very important to you, then in the future, when something really important to you happens, and in any life situation, it will be very difficult for you to open up to someone and tell about everything that happened. They advise me to go to a psychologist or just talk about it with someone, but I don't want to. Will they believe me? Or will I have to convince someone again that that's how it all was? People who experience such things tell the truth. We don't know what happened to them, but it's necessary to acknowledge that they sincerely speak about these important events in their lives. And then, how is this different from our knowledge that we believe in God and all kinds of spirits? Nevertheless, there's something in this that takes a particularly alien form for us. As I understand it, now there are people, including the school principal herself, who have identical memories. I can't say exactly when this happened to me. It was after the children's story and before Professor Mac's arrival, but I didn't talk about it. It happened at night, in the bedroom. Suddenly I found myself on a ship, on a narrow bed. Too narrow for my size. I thought, the main thing is not to fall off it. So narrow. Around me were little people, humans, aliens. They said, "Don't look up." But I looked, because that's who I am. They inserted something into my navel, possibly a microchip. Then a bright light flashed, and they left. Like in a movie. Yes, but it wasn't a movie. This is my experience, and it's nobody's business. I decided I would deal with this myself, but in the end I got hooked on Prozac. I became uncomfortable at school. I even thought that perhaps I shouldn't live in this world anymore, up to thoughts of suicide. I don't know, but I would never discuss this with Professor Mac or anyone else. I preferred to stay in the shadows. Then they returned and asked if I wanted to fly away with them. I was so unhappy, but I refused. They returned for the third, last time and said, "This is your last chance. Will you fly with us?" And I said that I needed to do my work and that you can't abandon business. You have to see it through to the end. All right. Hello. How are things? So sweet that they asked, but I didn't want to fly away. It was better for the children, so the aliens flew away. John Mack may be floating in the clouds with aliens, but he still gets a decent salary, and Harvard never fires its professors. Doesn't it bother you when one of your colleagues puts forward such theories? Does it become embarrassing for your profession and a little worrying about John himself? That he's gone crazy. John is a very gifted person with extraordinary intelligence, but besides that he loves to take on various challenges. However, this time he went too far and lost. John was accused of abuse of office, and this was repeatedly mentioned at the hearings. They insisted that John, by not telling these people that they were sick and not giving them sedatives, thereby made a medical error. These patients have psychological problems, but the source of these problems is deliberately hushed up, and madness is cited as an explanation for their cause. In high school, in my sophomore or junior year, I was very religious. I asked my youth pastor, in general, yes, I understand everything. Jesus came to earth and died for our sins. But where exactly did he come from? And I remember adding, is it possible that he came from another planet? I said, I saw something like this with my own eyes, but he brushed me off. No, you didn't see anything like that. People directly told me, no, you didn't see that. I remember how once a white pastor told me, You know, everything you experienced in childhood is completely unimportant. Whoever you are as an African, that's also unimportant. He said just like that. It doesn't matter. I can't be a person. And in this huge world where there are so many different people and languages unlike each other, you deny everything because it doesn't matter. After that, I decided to set out on a journey, ask questions, and seek answers. If they've been lying to themselves for so many years, perhaps someone should tell them, this didn't happen. Wake up. So they could finally heal from the lie they've been repeating for so many years that they even believed it themselves. I tried to hide this for about 20 years, tried to restrain myself. As a result, I lost most of my childhood, lost many childhood memories, because I didn't want to reopen the wound. It was too painful. What do you think about when you hear noise? That people want to break into my house to kidnap me, steal all my toys and all that. I can't talk about this with my husband. He's a very devout Catholic. And he asked me, what is this documentary about? And I answered, well, for a very long time I was afraid that if I told you, you would consider me abnormal and wouldn't want to be with me. And at first he said, no, it can't be. I couldn't have married someone who believes in aliens. I entered the courtroom they set up at Harvard. There was such a large semicircular platform where 3 doctors sat. It resembled a tribunal. We collected written testimonies and statements from people who claimed that John saved their lives. Some of them could have committed suicide if not for John. The adults I trusted didn't listen to me, and John Mack didn't need to be convinced of what we saw. And I know perfectly well that he was also mercilessly criticized. This whole story didn't end quietly and peacefully, and he had to fight for us. This lasted 14 months. All this time the hearings continued. Of course, during this time details leaked out. People were outraged that John had to go through this. I think this information leak was one of the reasons why Harvard decided to back down. I'm quite hard to hurt. And of course, I expected that if you stir up this hornet's nest, shake their centuries-old foundations, then the empire would strike back. People in high positions understood that this was nothing more than a witch hunt and put an end to the trial. This inspired hope. I felt such relief. We left convinced that something unusual happened here, a unique event in UFO history, and if anything, can convince the conservative public of the existence of, as the director said, extraterrestrial intelligence, then only this remarkable event. He was a rare person who had the courage to take on this strange question, a question that still remains a mystery of our time. After all, no explanation for what happened has been found. What are UFOs? Do any beings have any relation to us? These questions are among the most complex and confusing of our time. Similar to questions: what happens after death? Where did the universe come from? What was before the Big Bang? What was before that? Where did everything come from? In the Shona language there's a word Zvikwambo. With the advent of the church, it began to be given the meaning saint, but its original meaning, before the church appeared, was something very mysterious, something inexplicable, but real. It exists, and you interact with it. Having seen an alien, I was able to find my Africanness, my own belief system, culture and spirituality. I believe in this because I saw it. This is our common story, a story we're proud of. If you want to talk about it, then talk. If you don't want to, don't. But this is your story too. This is a very important story, but not because of what happened. This is an important human story. Simply put, people went through this. This is empathy. I see everything from your point of view. Then paths may diverge, but this is what makes us human. Some decided to dig deeper. Others simply closed themselves off so as not to think about it. Some perhaps found understandable answers for themselves, and for some, this is still a puzzle piece that doesn't fit anywhere. Those who were there that day said, "This never happened." And that's also normal. That's also a choice. We still have much to learn about what surrounds us. I didn't even realize that I could have a negative impact on the environment. Thanks to this message, I looked at my place in our world in a completely new way. It was so educational, I was able to realize how limited I was in my thinking. I didn't want to admit that something exists in our material world that doesn't yield to my understanding. Most people would ask, are we alone? But that's not the main thing. You need to ask, who are we? Maybe then we'll start to understand that someone else is looking at us and think about who they see. That day at school, 62 children reported seeing spaceships and extraterrestrial beings. 10 years later, John Mack was hit by a drunk driver. Mack died on the spot. Mack and many others believed that encounters with aliens were the most significant event of the 20th century.